Well, good morning, everybody. It's Rob Travels with Dottie, and there's Dottie there on the bed in the background, and George is down there sleeping. And it is November 1st. It's November, yay! November 1st, 2024, which means in now less than 2 weeks, I will be leaving for quartzsite. And I know you're all looking forward to a lot of daily quartzsite videos, and I'm excited about being able to do them. So we're going to start off by readdressing the last comment that I wasn't able to completely answer that. And the last comment was from Adventure by the Mile. Where do you get a list of medications you cannot bring back to the United States? It was on my taking a day trip to Mexico and going to pharmacies there. And I ended the video by saying, well, I'm going to Google, find you a list, find you. It's not possible. There's so much conflicting information from both the private sector and the government about medications. And I'm just going to tell you what I do instead of trying to post something that's clear. And I'm going to read what I posted here for her. There is a complex array of information out there published by the government that is conflicting and hard to understand. I go by the idea that any drug that is classified as a scheduled drug, I think there's schedule 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is on the FDA website. That's easy to find. I should not bring across the border. Okay. Any drug that I purchase and take across, any drug that I do purchase, which isn't going to be on that schedule, I take no more than a 90-day supply. All right. So, they're going to ask you, well, what are you bringing back? I bought medications. What did you buy? I bought a diuretic, blood pressure medication, and I'm bringing 90 days. I take one pill a day. I'm taking 90 pills. And they'll say, okay, let's see it. I pull it out of the bag. I show it to them, and they say, thank you very much. And you go on your way. So I've never had a problem. So I hope that answers. It may not be entirely legally correct what I did, but it gets me through the border. Tatton 8266 on the epic New Mexico road trip. That's an old one. I love Dottie, my second video, and I thought Dottie was your wife. Loving your videos. Let's see. On Mexico, Ken Gray says, very good information. Ken, you weren't first today. What's wrong with you? Are you okay? Reggie Keller, we love coming to Pahrump twice a year, getting out of the cold weather of Idaho. Which place is this? Thanks for sharing. I preferred RV resort. I replied to him. Ken's back. And it's my positive news story. Wow, UCLA study on kindness. In over 50 years of living different places in the U.S. and Europe, it has been my experience that people are kind and helpful. Governments are not. It's easy for a person to offer help than a political entity. I found that if I'm polite and kind, then the people I encounter usually are too. I found exactly the same thing, Ken. Mexico, do you need a passport? And I just said, look, watch the video. I give a lengthy answer to that in the end. So that's Ed Godby. Okay, Ed Godby. So Ed, instead of me just repeating that whole thing, because it's not very straightforward. What is straightforward, a passport is 100% going to work. They're not going to give you any grief. And a passport card, ID card, will work. Everything else will probably work, but they'll give you a hard time. That's my take. And when I say everything else, I mean picture driver's licenses, other types of government issued IDs. If you don't have any kind of government issued ID and you try to get across, you'll probably get, if you're American, you'll get home. It's just going to take you a while. Lisa R, kindness matters. Yes, it does. And Ken McLeod on the quartzsite to Mexico day trip. I used to live in El Paso, and my parents would take us shopping in Juarez almost every week. But that was in the 1970s, when the U.S. border guards are a lot more relaxed about crossing. A lot of times they ask you if you're a U.S. citizen and wave you through if you said yes. I want to say a passport has been a requirement for the last 20 years. But for Mexico and Canada, there are frequent traveler cars. I don't know the name for the Mexico version, but in Canada, it's called Nexus. You have to go to an interview, get a background check, and pay for it. So I just use my passport. Well, thanks for that information. Let's see. Ken again. Ken, you're back. So I know you're not. There's nothing wrong. You're not sick. You're commenting. For the minivan, you should have an inverter. So let me back up. It's on the Your Comments video, and someone was asking about, I'm coming to quartzsite. I have a minivan. I have a solar charger in a panel. So I gave her some advice on getting a bigger panel or plugging it when you're driving. Just plug it in the cigarette lighter. And Ken has a further insight here. It says, for the minivan, you should have an inverter to charge while driving. Even if you can charge with a cigarette lighter, some 12 volt in the car are only 5 amps, not the 15 or 20 needed. Now, that's going to be a little complicated for you. There's a thing called a DC to DC charger, right? And you can, I have one in my truck that I plug into my trailer that from the alternator and car battery, when I'm driving, it throws 30 amps, which is a lot, into my batteries while I'm driving. And that needs to be kind of professionally installed if you're not an expert, and it's not inexpensive. Ken may be referring to these. You can get a inverter that you plug into the cigarette lighter, and then you can plug a 120 volt in there. Now, I really don't know if that gives you a lot more amps than just plugging it into the 12 volt. I don't know. So a little beyond my thing, but I think my advice to her, it didn't seem like she knew a lot about this stuff, was she had a really big power station and a really small solar panel, so 100 watts. So I said, triple that. Go out, buy a 200 watt solar panel. You got 2 of them. You got 300 watts. That'll do you. And then I realized, she was worried about, what do I do when I'm spending the day in town? Well, what I see a lot of people do in quartzsite is they put that solar panel on the roof, put the wire in there, and while their car's parked, they charge, and they hope that no one comes by and steals their solar panel. Okay. Judy, I got a shame text from Judy going, I'm in quartzsite. Our other friends are in quartzsite. You're late. She's right, I am late. It wasn't a text, it was this. It was this comment. Cheryl will be here today, and Barb will be here early next week. So you are late. Tell Harold that we can see for miles here in the desert. I think Harold's the guy that complained that the desert was ugly and where are the trees. I love the mountains and lived in them for many years, but the view is very limited. So being here in Key was wonderful. Let's see. Mitch, thanks for sharing your experience and info about the area. If I understand correctly, you risk hitting the front or tail ends as the wheels travel lower through the wash. I'm planning to spend next winter in the area. I have a 4-wheel drive truck and shopping for a small teardrop, probably the New Camp 320. I live in Western New York, so it will be an adventure. So your 4-wheel drive truck's going to be able to get through just about every wash that I've ever seen out there in La Posa South, if that's where you're going to be, but not towing your little trailer. You got to have a fairly flat crossing to tow your trailer, because you'll get caught up. And you don't really want it when you're towing your trailer with all your stuff in it. You don't want to be taking it up a sharp angle when it's unnecessary, because stuff will fall around. You won't be happy when you open the door of your trailer when you get to camp. Judy, let's see. Judy also says, you are correct. The cats have a higher tolerance for heat. I researched this when I was considering getting another co-pilot when Gertie died. That's her sweet older dog, Gertie. But she replaced Gertie with it. She didn't get a cat. She got another dog, Buddy. Buddy's a pistol. But it's not. But if it's that hot, I don't leave them anyway. Okay, good point. Gold Race says, why are there no trees? Well, Harold, it's the desert. LOL. She's quoting me. Good answer. She thought that was pretty funny. And I really wasn't being, I was being a little sarcastic, but I did, if you go back to the comment video, I did say, hey, look, it's understandable, Harold, that you thought that. If you don't know about the desert, and I was trying to talk about the washes, so I had a picture that just showed like a sea of, it was a blurry picture, not a great picture, just a sea of, from the top down, rigs parked next to each other in the desert. And from that picture, it looked pretty miserable. But, you know, if you show it a clear picture with the beautiful mountains in the background and the beautiful lighting, it's a whole different thing. So I get it, Harold. But it is the desert. There are no trees. Joshua trees, maybe. Those are like cactus that look like short, stubby trees. Robin, good morning, Rob, Dottie, and George. Right, triggered memory, and yes, drove home in my socks. Yeah, she was talking about the positive news story about the bus driver that removed her shoes, and turns out Robin had a friend in the hospital that was in a terrible accident, and her feet were straightening out in the bed. This woman wasn't conscious, and the doctor said, get her shoes, and so her feet aren't like this, they're like this, put her shoes on. And there were no shoes there, so Robin took hers off and gave them to her friend. They turned out to be the same size, and then Robin, and I guessed when I responded to her, I bet you drove home in your socks. And she said, absolutely, she did. So what the story did for her is really triggered a pretty intense memory for her. EPH says, thank you, Rob. I didn't think about trying to find a Seabreeze cruise. I will look into it. That Seabreeze is the make of her RV. It's always good to find. Like I have a Winnebago micro mini user group in Facebook that I go into all the time. It's a great source of information. Quartzsite question. This is from Robert Burns. I have 900 watts of solar ground panels tilted to the south and need to decide if my RV should face east, west, south, or west. The wind is the question. I'm coming in February. And I just said, I've not been able to hide from the wind. I mean, some days I guess I face north, and it seems like it's always windy. Every once in a while, the wind comes from the other side, and where my door is seems to be a bit of a windbreak, but I've never been able to crack the code for the perfect position for the wind. EPH again. Not at all attached to being right about wearing shoes. Fact checked myself after following your first post to the link and posted my findings for DOT endorsed drivers. Okay. So all this was EPH, who's a wonderful person, posts wonderful comments all the time, made a statement that that this bus driver I was touting the virtues of was in violation of the law in Minnesota because it's illegal to drive without your shoes. And gee, I hope this video doesn't get her in trouble. And it's kind of it's a little bit of a big deal, and I'd hate to see this woman, get a violation through the mail because she admitted on camera she drove without her shoes. I can't imagine. This was a news TV station story. So, but it got me curious. Is it really? Why would it be illegal to drive in your bare feet? I mean, every way I looked at it, it was like you stand less a chance of slipping off the pedal. I think it would be maybe not as comfortable, but unsafe? That just doesn't seem right. So I did the research, and I did find a news story where a state trooper was interviewed and said, no, it's not illegal to do that. And this woman in the interview said, I think it's a violation of our policy because you have to have proper uniform, including proper footwear to work. That makes sense. Just about any job has a policy probably like that. I don't think they'd let you go barefoot if you're an accountant. You got to be properly attired. But she didn't seem to think that brief violation of policy was going to be something that was going to be a problem for her, and I doubt it too. So I'm not going to read her whole thing. You know what? When you post something online and someone points out and kind of proves that what you're saying isn't really accurate, it's not something that feels good. It's happened to me, and I've been, oh, okay. But what it does is it causes me to be a little bit more vigilant when I post things of fact online. I make sure, I do a little bit of research before I make a statement of fact. And notice I've really hedged on the question about what medications can you bring across the border, and I defaulted back to, hey, I'm just going to jump back to this is what I do and I haven't had a problem, which is a far cry from saying these are the facts about drugs you can bring over, because I tried to do research on it and I couldn't get a straightforward answer anywhere. It was very complex, and I was like, I'm not going to make a statement of fact. I had thought it was true that if the drug wasn't on the DEA schedule list, then you could bring it across. But I couldn't find anything definitive that said that this time, so I didn't state it as fact. So it's a really good idea. I think it's a good idea for me anyway, online, to before I make a statement about whether something is legal or illegal, or is factual or not factual, I do as much research as I can. And if I can't find a reputable, straightforward answer to the question, then I don't say it. And it wasn't easy. You know what? This is a good example of something. It's not easy to prove that a law doesn't exist. Think about that. If I Googled in, is it illegal to drive barefoot in Minnesota? You get an AI answer in the beginning that says, oh no, it's not illegal. It gives you a perfect direct answer, but they don't do any citations. So you got these AI answers you get when you Google. Beware of those. They can be easily wrong. And I never used AI answers on the search engine to verify anything. So when you start digging into websites, and you can't use a legal site to look up a law that doesn't exist. There's not going to be a law that says it's okay to drive with bare feet. There's only going to be a law that says that you can't. So it's sort of like the absence of finding something verifies your supposition. That may not make much sense. So the best I could do, and the thing that convinced me, was finding a state trooper with his Smokey the Bear hat on, standing on, being interviewed by a TV station saying there's no law. I'm good there. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Wanda Hope Wandering, thanks for all the info. I missed J. Calvin Hobbs. Hey, Calvin Hobbs, I thought you were a cartoon character, but you're real. Found this video looking for info on water update for quartzsite. Great info, thank you. Started my full-time RV journey September 22nd. Congratulations. Currently in Laughlin. Well, we're both in Nevada, but you're pretty far from here in Laughlin. We'll be meandering to quartzsite sometime next week, living in an RV. No matter where we go, we are always home. You know what that reminds me of? When I was in my early 20s, I lived in Los Angeles, and I worked for, if you're from LA or California and you're as old as I am and you've been there the whole time, you'll remember the Broadway department stores. I worked for the corporate headquarters of the Broadway department stores. And I worked with a woman, a fellow manager. Her name was Terry. And Terry lived pretty far kind of out in the desert with her family. And on the weekends, they had a fifth-wheel travel trailer that they would take to Laughlin, and they would spend the weekends in Laughlin. And I couldn't wrap my head around, why would somebody want to live in a trailer on the weekends? I just, it didn't compute. And here I am, this many years later, 40 years later, and I am relishing living in a trailer, not only in a trailer, but in Nevada, in the same city, same state that her family was going to. So I wonder what happened to Terry. Very nice woman, nice family. Wanda, Hope Wandering, thank you for all the info. Love the kindness content. And J. Calvin Hobbs said, thumbs up to avoid getting your LTVA permit revoked in quartzsite. That was a pretty popular video. And thumbs up to quartzsite 5 critical things they do not tell you. That's also from J. Calvin Hobbs. Renee, on the comments video, we go back and forth on the macerator pump. We have a Schwagen, a water bladder, and 5-gallon jug. Tell you, I don't know what setup you have, but if it's a trailer and you got a pickup truck, the whole macerator pump pull wagon is a no-brainer. Just set that baby in the bed, use the macerator pump to pump the waste up into the bed, into the container in the bed of the truck, and you're good to go. Renee, my husband has the same issue back in our small trailer. We've watched oodles of YouTube channels too. I said in the comments video, I'm terrible at backing my trailer. It's a little 21-foot trailer, and it is a code I can't crack. Well, I eventually crack it, but when I mean crack the code, there are people that can go, yeah, okay, zip, and they zip in their thing, and they're done. Not me. And I begged people not to give me advice. Please don't give me advice on it, because I've heard all the advice. I've watched all the videos. I've practiced all the stuff. And so far, that hasn't helped me. So please don't give a bunch of, so Renee's commiserating with me. J. Calvin Hobbs is 5 myths about quartzsite. J. Calvin's watching a lot of my quartzsite content. Angel Ann on there. I have a bunch of shorts out there on George the cat. Angel says, a precious little boy, hugs to you and Sissy, and one for Dad. Love and hugs always from Angel and Angela, North Carolina. Jesse Head on the quartzsite, on the Mexico day trip, helpful, thanks. And Campbell on the same video, thank you for the information. I need extensive dental work, so I'll be making a few trips to Algodones. Well, just all I can say is do a bunch of research and choose your dentist wisely and have some way to mitigate the language barrier. That's my advice. And the best, you can do Google searches and reviews and stuff, but the best is if you have a friend that, hey, I've been to this dentist for years and I've never had a problem. That's what you're looking for. Naj says, great info. Thanks. I can see why so many people go to the Algodones. Medicine, optometrist, dental, and pharmacy are so expensive here, especially if you don't have a good insurance plan. Yes. Loungers Club, on the recent quartzsite video, I'm looking to make it to quartzsite this year. Thanks for the info. Same person commenting on the RV living for beginners in quartzsite. Thanks for the information video. Hopefully I won't make any rookie mistakes. Thanks to Travels with Dottie. I got a Loungers Club t-shirt for you if you like. I'd love a t-shirt. Extra large. VEWNZ. I don't get it either. There are no trees. I would definitely plant a native tree in water while staying there. Um, yeah, if you're talking about planting a tree in the desert, um, I don't know if you can do that or not. Seems like maybe no, even if it's native. Um, I've never seen a rule on that, but I sure would think maybe they would not be good with anyone planting any plant in the desert. I know there's like, you do not want to mess with the cactus. There is big federal and state penalties for messing with the cactus in the desert. You don't want to do that. And you can't even like dried up, shriveled wood in the floor of the desert. You can't burn that in the campfire. That's illegal. That's why there's a big business in town of people selling firewood, because that's the only wood you can burn out there. Stuff you bring in yourself is the only wood you can burn in a campfire in the desert. George, on the George video, looks like he's saying, Dad, I'm trying to be comfortable. Go film something else. Yeah, it's probably true. Let's see. My power setup for boondocking is the foldable on the right of 200 watt. We're looking for 200 watt foldable. That's not crazy heavy. Why did he go with flat panels on the roof? Just curious. I don't remember the video, but I do have 3 foldables, 200 watts. And probably the answer is yes. If you saw one big one on the ground, it was one of my 200 watt ones. Why did you go with flat panels on the roof? Because I can, I could tape them down. I didn't have to put any holes in my roof or put a bracket or anything. It was just easier. Now, you know, I've since found out they lose their efficiency faster and they weigh out faster. So, but they've done really well. I mean, you know, the powerhouse are my 3 200s on the ground, and up on the back there, there's 2 170s that are flat together. Then in the front I have 2 100s, so that's 540 on the roof. And 540, it's flat, right? And there's also shading by they're not efficient on the roof. Nothing like the 200 watt ones that are in the open and pointed towards where the sun is coming. So the efficiency of the stuff on the roof is probably 30%. Right? So I've got 500. I'd be lucky to get 150 out of them in the winter. The ones on the ground that are in the open pointed, I could easily get 70% out of those during, you know, like noontime on a clear day. Let me reload this, see if there are any new ones. They want to make... I gotta click a thing that says I'm not a robot. All right. So Diane says, as a quartzsite newbie, this video was very confusing. It wasn't until we determined that you were not where you were talking about preferred our resort in Nevada, a 4-hour and 22-minute car ride from quartzsite. Be helpful to think about these things when talking to newbies. I do appreciate your content after I figured it out. So I'm a little stunned by that. It's not okay to talk about quartzsite when I'm not in quartzsite. I mean, people do it all the time. That's the first, I got to tell you, Diane, it's the first complaint I've had about that, and I've probably done a ton of, I've done quite a few, definitely quite a few quartzsite information videos from here and from New Mexico. So I've had almost 10,000 views on that video, and this is the first sort of confusion I've gotten from anyone. And was it really necessary to Google the driving distance and put how many hours and minutes drive it was from Quartzsite, Arizona, Quartzsite to Pahrump. If you're that upset, Nine says, make it yourself. Best way to feed your pet. The pet food companies are killing our animals. I don't know. You know, I just, there was a little bit of a mean edge to that comment. And I'm going to leave it out there. And it's not mean enough to get deleted. But it's mean enough for me to think maybe my channel's not your cup of tea, which is okay. There are lots of channels on Quartzsite. There's a ton of channels on beginner stuff in Quartzsite, and there are a ton of informational Quartzsite videos with people in Quartzsite, especially now that it's cool enough down there to be there. So go into YouTube for Quartzsite for beginners, and you're going to get a ton of videos, and a lot of them are going to be people standing in the desert in Quartzsite the way you want it. So I'm just going to suggest that. All right, that is it for today. And I sort of hate to end it sort of on a negative thing. So what can we say that's uplifting and positive? It's November 1st, and I'm going to be in Quartzsite, and I'll be doing the 3 videos a day, every single day, the whole time I'm in Quartzsite, from November 15th to sometime in the middle of March. And I'm really looking forward to my annual time in Quartzsite, Arizona, and signing off from Pahrump, Nevada. And I gotta take care of this character, take that character for a walk, and get her some breakfast. See you tomorrow, and I'm grateful for you watching my videos.